Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav, and we will be learning today Miras Hashem Daf Kuf Hey. Well, I'm going to say part of Kuf Hey Amud Aleph and Kuf Hey Amud Beis. I hope we will do a substantial part of Kuf Hey Amud Beis to stay on schedule. Okay, so we are continuing to learn Hilchos Sukkah, and we pick up today on Kuf Hey Amud Aleph in Siman Taf Reish Lamed Tes. Even though we did a little bit of the Mishnah Berurah over here in Sif Hey, I'm going to read again from the beginning of Sif Hey. We'll pick up from the beginning of Sif Hey for the sake of continuity. So the Mechaber says over here, Yardu Gishamim, if it started to rain, Harei Zeh Nichnas L'Saych Habayis. If you're sitting and you're eating your Suda, and then suddenly it begins to rain, the Mechaber says, what do? You go into the house. You leave the sukkah and you go into the house. And why is that? Well, the reason is because let's remember that the chiyuv of sukkah is teishvu kein taduru. The chiyuv of sukkah is basukkah is teishvu. You should live in your sukkah, and we darshan teishvu kein taduru. You live in your sukkah in the same manner as which you would live in your house. And if in your house it was raining, you would leave your house. So if it rains in your sukkah, you leave your sukkah. So the underlying p'tur of leaving the sukkah in the rain is teishvu ke'ein taduru. So yardu geshamim arei zeh nichnas l'soich habayis. There is a Mishnah Berurah here, Ois Katan Lamed Aleph, which we did already. One of the takeaways from Ois Katan Lamed Aleph is that this is not only negeah to rain, like the Chavetz Chaim says, if there is extreme heat and you're uncomfortable, and it's a type of heat that you would leave your house if it was hot like that in your house. Or if there are insects, and the insects are troublesome enough that you would leave your house, so then all of these things give you the same p'tur of teishvu ke'ein taduru. The Mishnah Berurah does point out that sometimes there are problems that come out in the sukkah. He points out, let's say it's cold, and because of the cold, it's not so much that you are uncomfortable because of the cold, but your food is being ruined. Like I mentioned last time, you're eating a beef stew, and the fat in the stew is starting to congeal. So the Chavetz Chaim does say, if there are easy things that you could do to prevent that from happening, you take the bowl of beef stew and you put it inside another bowl of hot water so it keeps it hot and it prevents this problem from happening, then you should try to do it. So like the Mefarshim say, you see from here, if there are easy things that you could do to prevent the discomfort that would pater you because of teishvu kein taduru, you should do that. So that was Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Lamed Aleph, which we already read. Then there's Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Beis. The Mechaber said, Harei zeh nichnas l'soich habayis. You go into the house because of the rain. The Mishnah Berurah says here in Ois Katan Lamed Beis, V'menashev haruach l'soich hasukkah. Let's say the wind is blowing into the sukkah. Val yedei zeh, and due to this wind, noishrim kismim min haschach l'soich hamaychel. You have little pieces of debris are falling off of the schach, and they're going into your food. Imu istinis, if you are a delicate person, sha'anina daite, you are of delicate constitution. You're one of these people who are finicky, and if there are little flakes from the schach that are falling into your soup, you can't eat your soup. Yachalotzeis chutz l'sukkah. So that's something that we would categorize as mitzvah, and you would be potter because of teishvu ke'ein taduru. Now let's go back to the Mechaber. So the Mechaber told us here, if it's raining, you could go into the house. The question is, what constitutes raining? So the Mechaber says, at what point is it permissible for you to leave the sukkah and go into the house? That the shear of that is when there are drops coming into the sukkah, there are enough raindrops coming into the sukkah that if rain of this amount would fall into your cooked dish, yipasel, it would be ruined. And we're speaking even afilu tavshil shel pol, even a dish that very easily gets ruined by water. A tavshil shel pol is some kind of a bean-based dish. I don't know exactly what it is, but like the Mishnah Berurah says, this is a dish which would be very easily ruined. That's the shear at which point you could leave the sukkah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Lamed Gimel, Tipais. When we call Makayim, however, even though we are saying that if it rains and there's enough rain coming into the sukkah that it would spoil your food, Misha Tizrak HaMikveh, like the Gemara says, you could leave the sukkah. When we come Makayim, nevertheless, Im Einam Yarden Lamakam Sheyoshev Sham. Let's say you have a very large sukkah, and somehow it's raining on one side of the sukkah, but it's not raining on your side of the sukkah. If the rain is not falling on you and the table in front of you, you have to keep on eating in the sukkah. And it's possible, says the Chavetz Chaim, it's possible you could still even make the bracha of Leisha Basukkah. Why not? You are not being impacted by this rain at all. He quotes this from the Bekura Yaakov, Ayin Sham, maybe Ksasrael, Zebi Maharil, but the Chavetz Chaim says, there are people who would be mitzvah from that. They can't sit here if it's raining over there. Then certainly you should not make a bracha. The Mechaber said it was talking about a tavshil shel pol. If a bean-based dish would be ruined by the amount of rain that's falling into the sukkah, that is enough to allow you to leave the sukkah. Shel pol shezeh hamin miskalkel b'mehera al yedei miut mayim. The Chavetz Chaim says this is a type of dish that gets ruined very easily. So, okay, here we have the shear. So the Mechaber tells us you could leave the sukkah because of the rain. How much rain constitutes an amount of rain that it would be appropriate and permissible to leave the sukkah? Enough rain that it would ruin the dish of food that you are eating. What kind of dish? Even a dish that is very, very easily ruined by water. Says the Ramah, Haggah, you should understand that this is true. Va'afilu ein tavshil lefanov. This has nothing to do, this p'tur, the shear that we're giving for this p'tur, that you could leave the sukkah when there's an amount of rain that would spoil your food. What if you're not eating? What if you're learning in the sukkah? What if you're shmoozing in the sukkah? So you're not eating right now. What's the shear then? When are you allowed to leave? So the Ramah is telling you this is the shear, va'afilu ein tavshil lefanov. Even if you don't have a cooked dish in front of you. And I took a look, and I love the lashon of the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan writes, "Dekach shiaroi chachamim." This is the shear that the chachamim set. Shebeshir zeh ein boi mishum teishvu kein taduru. You have to understand what the p'tur over here is. Like I said at the beginning of the shir, the p'tur is a p'tur of teishvu ke'ein taduru. That's the chiyuv of sukkah. Basukkah is teishvu. You have to be able to live in the sukkah the way you would live in your house. The chachamim set a shir that if there's enough rainfall falling into your sukkah that it would spoil a cooked dish if you had it in front of you, that already passels the sukkah from teishvu kein taduru. Nothing to do with the fact that you're mitzvah because your food is getting ruined. The point is that the sukkah is no longer a dira. It's no longer a place where you could be mekayim teishvu kein taduru. If there was rainfall like that falling into your dining room, you would leave your dining room. So that's the point of the p'tur, and that's why the Ramah points out this is true of afilu ein tavshil lefanov. You don't need a cooked dish in front of you. If that's the amount of rainfall that's falling, you leave the sukkah. And the Ramah says, Umisha einoi baki bazeh shir. If you're not sure how to understand this shir, if the drips are coming in, and I don't know, would this ruin a bean-based dish? I have no idea. Umisha einoi baki bazeh shir, says the Ramah, Yeshaer, he should measure. Im yardu kol kach gishamim labayis. You should ask yourself, if you were sitting in your house and your roof had severe leaking trouble, and it was raining into your house to this degree, im hayayotzei, would you go out of your house if you had somewhere else to go? Now, certainly if you had nowhere else to go, I guess you would stay in your house, because what else are you going to do? But if you had somewhere else to go, if you had a neighbor that you could run to, would you go to the neighbor if it was raining like this in your house? If yes, then leave the sukkah. So then yetzei musukasa gamkein. So then you could leave the sukkah. Okay, so that gives us an understanding into the p'tur. Now we come to a very interesting topic. Continues the Ramah, and the Ramah says, you should understand V'chol zeh dafka b'sha'ar yamim oleilos shel Sukkos. This whole conversation about being potter from the sukkah because of rain is only negeya, says the Ramah, the rest of Sukkos. Avalayla harishayna, but on the first night of Sukkos, tzarech lechol kezayis pasukah, you must eat a kezayis of pas in the sukkah, af im gishamim yardin, even if the rain is coming down. And this is brought down in the Torah in the name of the Ran and the Rosh. And we turn to Kuf Hayam Beis, where the Ramah says, and therefore, since on the first night of Sukkah, you must eat at least a kezayis of pas in the Sukkah, therefore, says the Ramah, what should you do? V'yekadesh pasukah, you should go make kiddush in the Sukkah, even if it's raining, and even if it's raining steadily and heavily. Kedei sheyoymar zman al hasukah, you'll make kiddush, you'll make a shehechiyanu, and you'll be able to start your Suda, and you'll be able to eat a kezayis of pas in the Sukkah, and then you'll leave. And now we have to take a look at the Mishnah Berurah for the details of this halacha, and for a better understanding of this halacha. So let's turn back to Kuf Hayam and Aleph, Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Lamed Hey. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Avalayla Rishayna. The Ramah told us there's a great difference between the rest of Sukkos and the first night. And let's remember that we saw in Kuf Daled Amid Beis in Siv Gimel, we already saw the introduction to this topic, when the Mechaber told us, Achila b'sukkah b'leil yom tov harishayin chayva, we have a different level of obligation on the first night of Sukkos than we do for the rest of Sukkos. The first night of Sukkos, we have a mitzvah chiyuvis that we must eat in the Sukkah. The rest of Yom Tov, the Mechaber told me, is optional. If you want to be Kaveh Suda, you need to eat in the Sukkah. If you don't want to be Kaveh Suda, you could avoid eating in the Sukkah. But the first night of Sukkot, there is a mitzvah chiyuvis, you have an obligation. You must eat at least a kezayis of pas in the Sukkah. So we already saw in Siv Gimel, on Kuf Daled Amid Beis, that there is a great difference between the first night of Sukkot and the rest night of Sukkot. The question is, how does it affect our topic at hand of if it's raining in the Sukkah? Again, our understanding over here so far is that if it's raining, the reason you're potter from Sukkah is because the chiyuv of Sukkah is teishvu ke'ein taduru. The chiyuv of Sukkah is to live in the Sukkah the way you would live in your house. And you wouldn't live in your house if it was raining in your house. Therefore, if it's raining, you leave the Sukkah. How is that affected by the increased obligation of Sukkah on the first night? So let's take a look here. Mishnah Berurah Ois Katan Lamed Hey. Avo Laila. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Da'av shehu mitztar machmas hageshem, even though you are mitztar, even though you're suffering because of the rain in the Sukkah, v'chol mitztar potter m'sukkah. And the rule, of course, is that a mitztar is potter because it's not teishvu kein taduru. Still, svira leila laharamah, the Ramah over here who says that you eat in the Sukkah on the first night even if it's raining, he holds Gedas ha-Paiskim, like the opinion of the Paiskim, the sovereign who hold the Balayla Rishayna af mitztayer chayiv. These Rishaynim hold that the Ptur of mitztayer does not exist on the first night of Sukkah. On the first night of Sukkot, you're chayiv even if you're a mitztar. V'taimam, and their rationale is Tekevam de Gomrinon Chamisha Asar Mechagamatzos. We learned already in Siv Gimel. Why is there a difference? Why is the first night of Sukkot more chamor than the rest of Sukkot? Because we have this Gzera Shava of Tezvav. It says Chamisha Asar by Pesach. It says Chamisha Asar by Sukkot. On Pesach, there's a mitzvah chiyuvis, there's a chiyuv daraisa to eat matzah on the first night of Pesach. The rest of Pesach is voluntary. If you want to eat bread, you have to eat matzah. If you don't want to eat bread, you don't have to eat matzah. So too on Sukkot, the first night is a mitzvah chiyuvis, you must eat in the Sukkah. The rest of Yom Tov is optional. Over here says the Mishnah Berurah, since we have this Gzera Shava of Tesvav, legamri gomrinon, we use that Gzera Shava and we compare the first night of Sukkot to the first night of Pesach totally. Ma hasam b'chol gavni chayiv. Just like on the first night of Pesach, you must eat matzah, and there's no such thing as a ptur of mitzvah. Af b'sukkos kain, so too on Sukkos, there is also a chiyuv. You must eat in the sukkah the first night of Sukkos, and there's no ptur. So basically what these Rishonim are saying, and this is very, very beautifully written in the Aruch HaShulchan, let me see it, let me find it quickly over here, where he says, he says like this, he says, V'hamechayvim, those that are mechayiv you to eat in the sukkah on the first night, even when it's raining, Savri, they hold, the Laila Harishona Eina Bechlal Basukos Teishu Shivas Yamim. They say that the chiyuv on the first night doesn't come from the pasuk of Basukos Teishu Shivas Yamim, and the Nitzrich Teishu Kein Taduru. If the chiyuv comes from the pasuk of Basukos Teishu, then you could darshan Teishu Kein Taduru, and you wouldn't live in your house in the rain, so you're not chayiv to eat in the sukkah when it's raining. And that taka applies to the rest of Sukkos. Basukos Teishu Shivas Yamim. For the rest of the Shivas Yamim, for the other 7 days of Pesach, in a Sukkos, in a Chinami, if it's raining, you're potter. Mitzvah, you're potter min a sukkah. But the first night doesn't come from Basukos Teishu Shivas Yamim. He says, Dezeru al kalachag. Basukos Teishu Shivas Yamim goes on the rest of Yom Tov. Avalayla harishona, but the chiyuv of the first night, yalfinon chamisha asar mechag hamatzos. That we learn out Gzera Shavat Tesvav from Pesach. And over there, the Aruch HaShulchan says, V'lo ksiv kan teishvu. In that pasuk, it doesn't use the word teishvu, the natzrich kein taduru, so that we should say that there's a ptur of teishvu kein taduru. V'heichon ksiv teishvu, where does it say teishvu? B'soif haparsha, basukos teishu shivas yamim. V'lachein, therefore, ala shivas yamim be'inon kein taduru. For the 7 days of Sukkos, then there's an Indian of teishu kein taduru. But v'loy alayla harishona, techiyuva me Rosha parsha, v'hi mitzvah b'fnei atzma, l'kayim mitzvah sukkah, achila v'shina, k'moisha b'chuyavam, l'kayim mitzvah achilas matzah, b'lo richard shal Pesach, da'afilu mitzvah chayiv, v'chein b'sukkah. So here we have this machlokes. The Ramah is paskening like the Rishonim, who say that we have a Gzera Shavat Tesvav. The Gzera Shavat Tesvav that compares the first night of Sukkot to the first night of Pesach leaves no room for a ptur of Teishu Kein Taduru. And therefore, even if it's raining, you must eat in the sukkah. Really, if you read through the Aruch HaShulchan, really you must sleep in the sukkah too. The Aruch HaShulchan writes that the same way there's a chiyuv to eat at least a kezayis in the sukkah on the first night of Sukkot, there would be a chiyuv to sleep at least a shinas aroi, at least a quick sleep. You would be mechuyev to sleep in the sukkah on the first night. He says, okay, we could be mekel on sleeping. He says over here, he says we could be mekel. I thought I underlined it. Aval b'shina ein noi hagen b'yeridas geshamim afilo arai mishum debalav alchiyana makila b'shina. Already we're mekel when it comes to sleeping in the sukkah, so we don't have to be machmir to sleep at least a shinas arai on the first night. But the point is that these Rishonim hold that there is no ptur of mitzvah on the first night of Sukkot. And since there's no ptur of mitzvah, you have this mitzvah chiyuvis, you must eat at least a kezayis in the Sukkah. So again, the Mishnah Berurah says over here that Sfir leila harama kedas hapaiskim deservin the belayla rishayna af mitzvah chayiv. The taimam the came in the gamrina chamishasa bechagamatzais legamri gamrina mahasa bechol gavni chayiv af besukos kain. V'dan you should know, says the Chavetz Chaim, Yesh oid mi gedolei harishainim. There are others of the gedolei harishainim, the Rashba, the Ravid, some of the Bali Tosfos. The Svir lehu the Gzera Shavazu lav lahachi asya. They hold that that's not the point of this Gzera Shava of Tesvav. They hold that the Gzera Shava of Tesvav does not change the geder of the mitzvah of Sukkah. These Rishonim hold that this is not a valid argument. They say Tesvav, the Gzera Shava, doesn't change the Geder of the mitzvah of Sukkah. Sukkos Teshvu has already established the Geder of Teshvu Kain Taduru. And the Gzera Shava, Tesvav, doesn't stop that. And therefore, the same way there's a P'tur of Teshvu Kain Taduru, a P'tur of Mitzvah, the rest of Yom Tov, there's also a P'tur of Mitzvah on the first night. So here we have this machlokes. We have those who hold that the first night is very different than the rest, and there's no P'tur of Mitzvah, and therefore the first night you're mechuyev to eat in the sukkah even if it's raining. Then we have the Rishonim who hold that the Geder of the mitzvah is the same on the first night as the rest of Yom Tov, and there is a P'tur of Mitzvah. And if it's raining, you go inside. Valkein, therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, Hechriu kama achronim. Many of the achronim were machriya. They concluded, he brings down to the Pri Megadim, the Derech HaChaim, the Slach, and others. Even though we do have a suffix, and therefore, based on this suffix, you have a chiyuv to eat in the sukkah on the first night. Birkas leishev basukkah lo yivarech. You're not going to make a bracha of leishev basukkah. The suffix brachas lahakel. So you're going to make sure to eat a kazayis in the sukkah on the first night to be yotzeh the opinion of the Rishonim who hold that you're chayiv. So you'll go and you'll eat at least a kazayis, but a leishev basukkah you're not going to make. Oid Kosvu, the Achronim also right, and now we turn to Kofayim and Beis. They also write, that really it would be proper to wait until halachic midnight on the first night if it's raining. Pen Yavar Ageshem. Maybe it'll stop raining. The Im Yavar, because if the rain does stop, Yikanis L'Sukkah, then you'll go into the sukkah, V'yavarach Birkas Leishe B'Sukkah V'yoichal. In other words, you come home from shul and it's raining. If you follow the opinion of the Ramah, so you're going to go into the sukkah now, you're going to make kiddush, and you're going to wash, and you're going to eat a kazayis of pas in the sukkah, but like the Mishnah Berurah just told us, you're not going to make a leishev basukkah because we have a suffix. We have shitas that hold you should eat in the sukkah, shitas that hold that you don't. Suffix brachas lahakal, you're not going to make a bracha. So yes, you'll be mekayim the mitzvah of eating a kazayis pas in the sukkah, according to those shitas who hold you have a chiv, but you're going to do it without a leishev. Therefore, the Achronim say, really, if you come home and it's raining, wait, and see if the rain stops. If the rain stops, then you'll be able to go into the sukkah, and not only will you eat in the sukkah to be yotzeh the chiv, but you'll also do it with a leishev. The yotzeh b'zeh mitzvah haselu kulei alma. But v'yesh be'achronim shekasvu, there are achronim that write, de'en kedai lahamtin kol kach. It's not worthwhile to wait too long. De'im yamtin achilas b'nei beisa agdolim v'aktanim. If you're going to sit around and you're going to wait, with your whole family waiting for the Suda, ein lecha menias simchas yom tov yoisem mizeh. There is no greater pigam in simchas yom tov than to come home on the first night of Sukkos and everybody is sitting around waiting to eat, and you can't start eating the Suda for hours because you're waiting to see if it's going to stop raining. I'm sorry, you'll excuse the drinking from the bottle, but I don't have a cup here and I do have to lubricate my throat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol ni b'dvarim. Okay. So he brought this down from the Shari Tshuva. V'chein be'Eliyah Rabba u'Pri Megadim lo yiskiru shir chatzos. They also don't recommend waiting until chatzos. Rak kisha u'shtayim. They suggest waiting an hour or two. V'im lo pasku, and if it does not stop raining, what should you do? Yaseh oz kiddush b'sukkah k'moshe kasav Ramah. Then you should make kiddush in the sukkah like the words of the Ramah. Now, the suggestion over here was to wait until chatzos. Why chatzos? Because remember, we learned previously that the ikar mitzvah of sukkah on the first night is to eat a kazayis of pas in the sukkah before chatzos, because that was also learned from the Gzera Shava, tesvav from Pesach. Just like matzah, the mitzvah is to eat the matzah before chatzos, so too by Sukkos, the mitzvah is to eat in the sukkah before chatzos. So wait until chatzos. Beyond that, there's no point in waiting anymore. Now we're going to go to Ois Katan Lamed Vav, which is a lengthy Mishnah Berurah that dives a little deeper into how to comport yourself when it's raining. So the Ramah said, "V'yikadesh b'sukkah kedei sheyom hazman." The Ramah told us, what should you do? You come home and it's raining. He said, make kiddush in the sukkah. And the Ramah wrote, kedei sheyom hazman al hasukkah, so that you'll be able to make the shehecheyanu on the sukkah. Now let's remember, before we read the Mishnah Berurah, that there are two reasons to make a shehecheyanu sukkahs by night. One shehecheyanu is the same shehecheyanu that we always make on Yom Tov. Always on Yom Tov when we make Kiddush, we make a shehecheyanu. That's on the Yom Tov. But there's also a shehecheyanu on the sukkah. Now, when do you make a shehecheyanu on the sukkah? It's brought down that really you could make the shehecheyanu on the sukkah when you build the sukkah. We make the shehecheyanu by Kiddush in the sukkah when we're eating in the sukkah. But not necessarily does it have to be then. So, says the Mishnah Berurah like this: "V'yikadesh b'sukkah kedei sheyom hazman." Ritzoynoi loymar. What the Ramah wants to say over here is, why is the Ramah telling us that this is precisely the way you should do things? Really, there's another method. Really, you could think that you should do things in a different way. Ritzoynoi loymar, the lechayra hayaloi lasais behipuch. Really, a good argument could be made that you should not do what the Ramah says. The Ramah says, go make Kiddush in the sukkah, and then eat a kazayas pasta in the sukkah, in the rain, and then leave the sukkah and eat the suda in your house. Says the Chavetz Chaim, really a good argument could be made to do quite the opposite. Like this. Really, there's a good argument to make that you should do fakert. You should do the opposite. What's the opposite? Sheyekadesh babayis. You should make Kiddush in your house. V'yomer gam ken sham brecha shecheyanu lazman hazeh. And in that Kiddush, in the house, you will also make a shecheyanu. Why? Because you make a shecheyanu on the Yom Tov. That shecheyanu would not go on the sukkah. That would be a shecheyanu on the Yom Tov. So really, a good argument could be made. Come home, it's raining. Go into the dining room, make Kiddush, make a shecheyanu on the Yom Tov, wash, and eat your suda. V'yochal kol su'udasai sham. Eat your whole suda in the house. V'rak b'siyam ha'suda. At the end of the suda, yikanis l'sukkah, go out to the sukkah, v'yochal kazayas sham. And then eat a kazayas outside in the sukkah. Now, what's the argument to do that? Well, the Pri Megadim suggests that there's a very solid reason why you should do that. You know why? Because we know in Kiddush el b'makom suda. Kiddush is supposed to be b'makom suda. Why should you go ahead and make Kiddush in the sukkah where you know that you're only going to eat a kazayas pasta, then you're going to leave, and then you're going to make your suda in the house? Instead, make Kiddush in the house, which is the place where you're going to eat roiv hasuda. Make Kiddush b'makom suda. Also, if you make Kiddush in the house, and you make the suda in the house, maybe eventually it'll stop raining, and then you can go out to the sukkah. You can eat the rest of the suda outside in the sukkah. Why should you go out to the sukkah when it's raining, knowing full well that you're going to leave, and you're only going to be yotze the mitzvah according to those shittas who hold that you're still chayiv even though it's raining? Go into the house, start the suda in the house, and while you're farbringing in the house, maybe it'll stop raining, then go out, eat outside without the rain. So why does the Ramah say that you should do it his way? So explains the Chavetz Chaim, there's a reason why. Elo de bazeh, if you do it the way I just described, so that you're going to make Kiddush in the house, and eat your suda in the house, and go out to the sukkah at the end, hayitzarech levarech oid birkas man mishum sukkah. Now you would be mechayev yourself to make another shecheyanu. Because like I told you a couple of minutes ago, there are two reasons for a shecheyanu. One reason for the shecheyanu is on the Yom Tov. Now the shecheyanu on the Yom Tov, you could be yotze when you make Kiddush in the house. But you also need to make a shecheyanu on the sukkah. You can't make a shecheyanu on the sukkah when you're sitting and eating in your dining room. So now if you're going to make Kiddush with a shecheyanu in the house, at some point you're going to have to make another shecheyanu outside in the sukkah. And like the Chavetz Chaim says, that's a problem because ve'ein nachay laharbais bebrachis. We don't like to be mechayev you what's essentially a bracha she'eina tzricha. It's an unnecessary bracha. There is a way that we could be mekayim both. How are you going to do that? So explains the Chavetz Chaim, Lakach, therefore, Toiv Yoiser Sheyikadesh Mitchilu B'Sukkah. This is why it's better to make Kiddush in the Sukkah, in the rain. V'yeh Koi Birkas Man ala Sukkah Gamke. And now you'll get away with one Shechiyanu, because the Shechiyanu that you make in Kiddush will cover the Yom Tov and the Sukkah, because you're eating in the Sukkah. Now you might ask, yeah, but you're eating in the Sukkah in the rain. So you're going to be Yotze the Shechiyanu on the Sukkah, according to the Shittas who hold that you're Chayiv to eat in the Sukkah on the first night, even if it's raining. But can the Shechiyanu go on the Sukkah in the rain, even according to the Shittas that hold that you're not Chayiv to eat in the Sukkah in the rain? Says the Chavetz Chaim, yes. Because even according to those who hold that you're potter from eating in the Sukkah in the rain, you're still Yotze the Shechiyanu on the Sukkah, even if you're not Chayiv on the Sukkah. Because this is no worse from somebody who makes the Shechiyanu during a weekday before Sukkos, when he builds the Sukkah, the Yotze Bazeh. I'm recording this shir the night before Erev Rosh Hashanah. I was working on my Sukkah today. I could have made a Shechiyanu on the Sukkah today. I'm Zichar not Chayiv in Sukkah today. So you don't have to make the Shechiyanu on the Sukkah at a time that you're Chayiv in Sukkah. So yes, on the first night of Sukkot, if you're eating a Gezayis Pas, if you're making Kiddush in the Sukkah during the rain, you could be Yotze the brach of Shechiyanu on the Sukkah, even according to the Shittas that hold that at that point in time you're not Chayiv in Sukkah because it's raining. So therefore, why should you make two Shechiyanus if you could make one? So v'yoichal b'sukkah kizayis ushar seudasai yoichal bebeisai. So this is why the Ramah says that the proper course of action is you make Kiddush first in the Sukkah with a Shechiyanu. The Shechiyanu will go on the Yom Tov and on the Sukkah, and then v'yoichal b'sukkah kizayis, and then you'll wash and you'll eat a kizayis apas in the Sukkah. Ushar sudasa yachal bebeisai, and the rest of the Suda you will complete in your house. Continues the Chavetz Chaim. Ve'impasku agishamim. Now let's say the rain stops. So you made Kiddush in the Sukkah in the rain. You washed. You ate a kizayis apas in the Sukkah in the rain. You're eating your Suda outside outside of the Sukkah inside the house, and now you see it stopped raining. Ve'impasku hagishamim. If the rain stops. Afilu kfar berach berkas hamazon alachila hakodemes. Even if you already benched, tzarich lechal oidapam. You should go back out to the sukkah. Keshir beitza umeat yoiser b'sukkah. Now you should go back out to the sukkah, and you should eat how much? A little bit more than a kibetza, a little bit more than the volume of an egg. Or levarech leishev b'sukkah, and you should make a leishev. Now, let's analyze what the Mishnah Berurah just said. The scenario that the Mishnah Berurah just described is, you came home from shul the first night of Sukkot, it was raining. So you did what the Ramah tells you to do. You went out to the Sukkah, you made Kiddush in the rain, you made a Shechiyanu in the rain, on the Yom Tov and on the Sukkah. You went, you washed, and you ate a Kazayis Pas in the rain, in the Sukkah, without a leishev, like the Mishnah Berurah said on the previous page. Don't make a leishev. Why did you do this? Because there are Rishonim that hold that there's no P'tor of Mitzvah on the first night. So k'dei lotzeis yedei chayvasai, in order to be mekayim your chiyuv according to those Rishonim, you ate a kazayis pas in the sukkah in the rain. Now you went into the house and you ate your suda in the house. Now let's say your suda is over, you're already benched, your suda is over, you go outside, you see it's not raining. Says the Mishnah Berurah, go outside to the sukkah, and now eat yoiser mikebetza. Now eat a little bit more than the volume of an egg, and make a leishev. Why? Because says the Mishnah Berurah, you're doing this kidei lotzei stasa poiskim, because now you have to be yotze according to the poiskim, the sviralu who hold they ain't a yotze b'masha achal be'es hageshem. Because realize, when you ate your kizayis pas outside in the sukkah in the rain, you were only yotze the mitzvah according to those rishonim who hold that there is no p'tor of mitzvah. But according to the Rishonim who hold that there is a P'tor of Mitzvah, even on the first night, you weren't Yotze your mitzvah of Sukkah by eating the kizayis that you ate outside in the rain. So now it's not raining, Now go back outside to the sukkah and eat in the sukkah again in order to be yotze the chiyuv of sukkah on the first night, according to those Rishonim. But how much do you have to eat? You have to eat yoser mikabetza. You know why? Because we learned earlier that the shear of a kezayis, the fact that you could be yotze the mitzvah on the first night with a kezayis, is only true on the first night, and it's only true when you go to be yotze the mitzvah on the first night, because that comes together with the Gzera Shavah Tesvav, and the shear of matzah is a kezayis, so the shear of eating in the sukkah is a kezayis. But now you have a suffix. According to some Rishonim, according to the Rishonim who hold that there's no HaTorah of mitzvah on the first night, you were already yotze the mitzvah when you ate in the rain. So now when you go back outside to eat, it's already the second time you're eating on the first night of Sukkot in the sukkah. So you can't be yotze with a kezayis. Now it's like the rest of Yom Tov, where you could only be yotze with yotze mikabetza. So now you're going to make a leishev, and you're going to eat yotze mikabetza to try to be mekayim the mitzvah according to all the Rishonim. So the Mishnah Berurah spells out, why are you doing this? Kidei lotzei stas hapaiskim, in order to be yotze the mitzvah according to the opinion of the paiskim, the svirler who hold, the eina yotze b'masha achal be'es hageshem, that you weren't yotze the mitzvah when you ate during the rain, because then you had a HaTorah mitzvah. Continues the Chavetz Chaim and he says, V'hu kisha adayin lo shachav. And this idea that you should go back outside to the sukkah and eat a second time is only if you did not yet lay down to go to sleep. Avalim kvar shachav, if you already lay down to go to sleep, ain't tzarech lakim and amita, you don't have to get up and get out of bed, because memarshach. De'im mitzvah chayiv, what are you trying, according to who are you trying to yotze the mitzvah? According to those shittas who hold that mitzvah is chayiv, harei kvar yotza b'achilosai, you were already yotze the mitzvah when you ate a kezayis pas in the sukkah in the rain. So if mitzvah is chayiv, you were already yotze the mitzvah. If mitzvah potter, and if mitzvah is taka potter even on the first night, then ain't tzarech lakim and amita. Then you don't have to get out of bed, because getting out of bed is mitzvah. Kamavur b'siv zayin. So mamarashach, you don't have to get out of bed to go outside and eat now that the rain stopped. Umasha kasav haramah laila harishayna. Now the Chavetz Chaim tackles a different problem. The Ramah says that all of this is negeah to laila harishayna, to the first night. Well, why isn't it also negeah to the second night? We keep 2 days here in Chutz La'aretz. We have Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golius, but it's originally there because of Sveika D'Yoma. So generally speaking, we treat the second night the same as the first night. So Mashakasav Ramah Laila Rishayna, why does he say only Laila Rishayna? The Balayla Ashniya, because on the second night, the halacha of the second night is taken not the same as the first night. The Balayla Ashniya on the second night, Mekadesh bebeisai, you should make kiddush in your house, not in the sukkah if it's raining. V'yavarech zman al Yom Tov, and make the bracha of Shechiyanu on the Yom Tov, because there is no longer a Shechiyanu on the sukkah. You already made a Shechiyanu on the sukkah the first night. You don't make a Shechiyanu on the sukkah on the first night and on the second night. You make a Shechiyanu on Yom Tov both nights because of Sveika D'Yoma. So you don't know which, originally at least, you didn't know which day of Yom Tov is the real day of Yom Tov. So you make a Shechiyanu both nights on the Yom Tov. But the Shechiyanu on the Sukkah has no shaychus to Sveika D'Yoma. Because like we said, you can make a Shechiyanu on the Sukkah even a week before Sukkah starts. So you don't make two Shechiyanus on the Sukkah. So the issue of making the Shechiyanu on the Sukkah is not neged the second night. Therefore, make Kiddush in your house, make a Shechiyanu on the Yom Tov, v'yochal sudasai, and eat your Suda, u'b'sayf ha'suda yachal kezayis b'sukkah, and now at the end of the Suda, you'll eat a second time in the Sukkah, v'lo yivarach le'shev b'sukkah, v'gam lo yivarach she'echiyanu al ha'sukkah, v'yismach b'zeh al she'echiyanu sheberach b'leil rishon. Just 1 second. Yeah, right. This kazayas you're eating in the rain. Right. Ubesayf asud the yachal kazayas pasukah. The Mishnah Berurah says here, on the second night, you're going to make kiddush and you're going to eat your suda in the house. And if it's still raining, at the end of the suda, you should go out and eat a kazayas eat a kazayas in the sukkah. V'lo yavarach leishev, because like the Mishnah Berurah said earlier, you never make a leishev in the rain. V'gam lo yavarach shechiyanu al sukkah v'yismach mazel shechiyanu sheberach le'rishay. U'lechatchila, continues the Mishnah Berurah, lechatchila toiv lahamtin gam balayla shniya ma'ata ad sheyifsiku hageshamim. On the second night, it's also appropriate to wait a little bit to see if the rain will stop. Ve'emachal bebeisai, and if you eat in your house, v'rak kazayas b'seif hasuda b'sukkos kasher kasavnu, and you only eat a kazayas outside in the sukkah at the end of your meal. V'achakach pasku hageshamim, and then the rain stops. Sarch lichnais la sukkah, you should go back out to the sukkah. V'lechel kishir, and you should eat a proper shir. Dahainu yoysa mikabeitza, you should eat slightly more than a beitza. Or levarach leishev b'sukkah, and make a leishev. V'ayil kaman b'simin taf reish mem siv dalid masha kasavnu sham b'inyan zeh. Okay, so now before we move on to Sivav, I want to point out another interesting concept when it comes to the question of rain on the first night of Sukkos. If you remember, back in Siman Taf Reish Chaf Ches, I believe it was. Siman Taf Reish Chaf Tes, Sif Yud Tes, Daf Tzadik Amid Beis. Siman Taf Reish Chaf Tes, Sif Yud Tes. Says the Mechaber, Piris Aleh Asadin Mipnei Achama. Let's say you spread out a sheet over the schach to give you protection from the sun. Oy Tachtea Mipnei Hanishar. Or you spread out a sheet underneath the schach to catch falling debris from the schach. You don't want debris to fall down onto your table. Pesula, the sukkah is puzzle. But if you spread out this sheet as a sukkah decoration, keshera, then the sukkah remains kosher even though it has a sheet spread out on top of the whole sukkah. As long as it is within 4 tfachim of the schach, the sukkah is kosher. And we explained over there that if you spread out a sheet as noi sukkah, then it's there to decorate the schach, and it's actually bottled to the schach. It becomes bottled to the schach, and it doesn't passel the sukkah. That was the first opinion. So again, according to that first opinion in Sif Yud Tes, if you are to spread out a sheet over the schach to protect from the sun, or to protect from the rain, it would passel the sukkah. And the Mishnah Berurah explained in Ois Cotton Nun Aleph. Nun Aleph? No, in Ois Cotton Nun Beis, the Mishnah Berurah explained that the reason this would passel the sukkah is because because what are you doing? You're putting up a sheet on top of the sukkah for what purpose? For shelter purpose. So that means that you're spreading out a sheet, which is not kosher as schach, and you're spreading it out for schach purposes, for shelter, for shade, l'shem tzeil. So that passels the sukkah. Okay. But then there's a yesh omrim. The yesh omrim, there is another opinion, and this is the Rabbeinu Tam. The yesh omrim, there are those that say that in order to passel the sukkah, you need something else. Shesukkah she'i mesucheches kilchasa, if you have a sukkah with proper schach. But the problem is, v'yarei shema yivash aschach. You're afraid that the sun might dry out the schach. Or yishru ha'olin, or all the leaves might fall off the schach. V'tiyeh chamasa meruba mitzilasa, and that will result in the schach being chamasa meruba mitzilasa. So, what are we talking about here? You have beautiful schach, but if the sun is going to beat on it, it's going to dry up and shrivel, and more sun is going to get in. Or if the leaves are allowed to fall off and fall down, again, the schach is going to become thinner, and then it's going to be chamasa beruma mitzilasa, and it'll be puzzled. So in order to protect the schach, you went ahead and you spread out a sheet on top or on bottom, then kevan she'asadin goyrim she'al yodo yitzilasa beruba mechamasa, the Rabbeinu Tam says in that case the sukkah is puzzle. Why? Because it is the sadin, it is the sheet that is maintaining the integrity of the schach. If the sheet is maintaining the integrity of the schach and the sheet is puzzle the schach, then the sheet puzzles the schach. Aval, however, im loy kivein beprisas hasadin, if the point of the sheet is ela lahagin ne'achama, only to protect from the sun or from the rain, v'ha'olin, or from the falling debris, oilin ha'isa, or to beautify the sukkah, kshera. Then Rabbeinu Tam holds that the sukkah is kosher. Basically, what he says is, if you have beautiful kosher schach, and just you're putting up another layer of puzzle schach, a sadin, to help protect you from the sun or from the rain or anything else, then the Rabbeinu Tam holds that doesn't puzzle the sukkah. And we explained this in greater detail back then. But what comes out from Siman Taf Reish Chav Tes is that according to the Rabbeinu Tam, a shlak does not puzzle your sukkah. If you have a sukkah that is beautiful, perfect schach, and now you want to roll out a shlak, you want to roll out a tarp on top of your schach to protect yourself from the rain, that doesn't puzzle your sukkah. Now, we don't paskin like this, Rabbeinu Tam. We're machmer like the day of Rishona over here in Sif Yotes. And we hold that the shlak does puzzle the sukkah. But on the first night of Sukkos, if it's raining, go out to the sukkah, make kiddush like the Ramah said in the rain, eat a kazayis pas in the sukkah in the rain, and then if you have a shlak, don't go into the house, close the shlak, and eat in the sukkah with the closed shlak. Because according to the Rabbeinu Tam, if your shlak at least is within 4 tfachim of the schach, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, you're still yotze the mitzvah of sukkah, even with the schach closed. And we could actually see this in the Mishnah Berurah, on Tzadik Aleph Amid Aleph in Ois Katan Nun Ches. Umikam Mokim b'shas chak shelo yochel lechel b'sukkah. If there's a shas chak and you cannot eat in your sukkah, al yedei ha'olin ha'noishrin l'sei chameichel, because leaves are falling into your food, al yedei gishamim ha'noitfin, or because rain is coming into the sukkah, mutav lifrei sadin tachas haschach, it would be better to spread out a sheet b'sayich arba tfachim, within 4 tfachim, mishayocha chutz l'sukkah. Better to do that than to eat outside the sukkah, especially on the first night. Okay. I know that we're a little bit long here, but I do want to go a little bit weiter because there's really not much Mishnah Berurah left on this page. So let's push a little bit weiter. Sivav. Hayaichel basukkah, if you're eating in the sukkah, v'yardu gishamim, and it started to rain, v'halach lebeisai, and you went into your house because of the rain, upasku gishamim, and now the rain stopped. So you went out to the sukkah, you made kiddush, you washed, you started eating, you ate the fish. I'm not talking about the first night of Sukkos now. I'm talking about any other day meal, night meal of Sukkos. So it's one night, you're sitting and you ate your appetizer, and now it started raining, and it's enough rain that it was time to leave the sukkah, and you left the sukkah, and you went into your house and you sat down and you continued to eat, and now the rain stopped. The rain chased you out of the sukkah, and now the rain stopped. We do not obligate you to go back out to the sukkah. You could finish your entire suda inside the house. You do not have to go back. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you were eating in the sukkah. The scenario of the mechaber is, you were eating in the sukkah, you got chased out of the sukkah by the rain, you're not mechuyev to go back. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's not the only possible scenario. Hu adin, the same halacha would apply, Let's say you came home to eat supper and it's pouring. So you never made it out to the sukkah. It's not that you went out to the sukkah and you got chased in. You never made it out to the sukkah. You came home, it was pouring. You sat down to eat supper in the house. Ein tzarich lifsay sudasay bebeisay. You do not have to interrupt your suda in your house. Eligomer bebeisay. You can finish your suda in the house. So don't think that this halacha only applies if you were in the sukkah and you got chased out of the sukkah. Now we're not mechayiv you to go back. Even if you never made it out to the sukkah in the first place, and you just started your suda in the house, if it stops raining, you don't have to go back. Let's say you got chased out of the sukkah by the rain, you came into the house, and you did not yet sit down and start eating in the house. Even though you stopped eating in the sukkah and you went into the house, but you never began eating yet in the house, then you do have to go back out to the sukkah in Pasku Ageshamim if the rain stopped. So I always say, if you get chased out of the sukkah by the rain and you get chased into the house, sit down and start eating right away. Don't come inside to the house, bring everything from the sukkah, set the table in the dining room, and take 20 minutes until you start eating. Because then what might happen is, you took 20 minutes to start eating again, and then your kid comes in and says, it stopped raining. Now you got to go back out to the sukkah, because you never started eating in the house. So if you have to, come in, bring your plate with you, sit down, start eating. And that way you don't get involved in all sorts of very aggravating svekis. Okay. Says Zayin. Haya yashen. Let's say you were sleeping in the sukkah. V'yarudu gishamim balayla, and it started raining in the middle of the night. V'nichnas l'say chabayis, so you came into the house. Upasku agishamim, and now the rain stopped. Ein matrichin oisay lachzal l'sukkah kol oisay alayla. You're not mechuyev to go back to the sukkah for the entire night. Ella rather yoshen bebeisay, sleep in the house. Ad sheyala amud hashachar, until the morning. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you were sleeping and the rain started coming down, says the Mishnah Berurah, the same thing he told us by eating. This is not only true if you were sleeping in the sukkah and you got chased out of the sukkah. The same halacha applies if you never went to sleep in the sukkah because it was raining. If you went to sleep in the house and then it stopped raining, you're not mechuyev to get up and go back out to the sukkah. Ein matrichin oisai, we're not matrich you to go back out to the sukkah. V'dafku kisheshachav kvar. This is only true if you're already laid down, just like by eating. By eating, you're not mechuyev to go back out to the sukkah if you already started eating in the house. By sleep also, you're not mechuyev to go back out to the sukkah if you already laid down to go to sleep in the house. If you didn't lay down to go to sleep yet, so you slept an hour in the sukkah, the rain chased you in the house, you got up, you came into the house, you're having a snack, you sat down on the couch, you opened the sefer, you started learning. Now it stops raining, go back out to the sukkah. Yazal sukkah. Ubesefer big day yeshav v'chein b'mayim Mordechai mistapkim bazeh akrei shekvar hoyoloi tercha. Since there's a bigger tercha here, shekvar hoyoloi tercha lahachnes akarim ukesasais. You already slept in the mattress, and the blankets, and the pillows, and sachabayis. Efshir shelo yitricha lachzar ulaha aloisam. Memalef will not matriach you lachzar l'sukkah to go back out to the sukkah. V'hu adin misha sheicha b'sukkah sheyesh le'letin. If you're laying down outside of the sukkah and you have a shlak, ubeshas hagishamim sagru oisan, and you closed the shlak, v'achakach pasak hageshem, and now it stopped raining. Nirish ain't tzarich lalois alaschak. You don't gotta go climb up. Liftayach haletin shesasa b'shas hagishamim. Avalim yochel lepascham asuk al yidei chavalim. If you could do it from inside with ropes and it's easy, tzarich lalois lepascham. You gotta get up and open it. Shein zerak ma'at tircha. This is only a slight tircha. V'loy mikri mitztar, and there would be no Torah of mitztar with that. You could sleep all the way till the morning. Even if you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't have to go back to the sukkah in the night. Okay? We're going to stop over here. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The Sukkos of limud HaTorah should be made on Gans Klal Yisrael. It's the night before Erev Rosh Hashanah that I'm recording this. I hope to record another shir tomorrow, So my hope is that this is not the last share that I'm recording this year, but I do want to wish everybody ksiva tova, good gebencht yar, even though many of you might not see this until after Rosh Hashanah. My thoughts are with you. Thank you very much for giving me the schus of being able to teach Torah. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I really, really, really appreciate the schus to be able to teach Torah. I hope the Olam enjoys the shiurim. You should all have a ksiva, a chsima, tova. We should have a good gebencht yar. The tefillas should be niskabel. The Rebbeinu Shalom should give us a better year. The Rebbeinu Shalom should give us what truly is a good year. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring the Bias Koil Tzedek b'meherav Yameinu. We should come to Yom Kippur. We should be zeichet to see the chut hashani. We should have the piece of cloth that changes from red to white when the sa'ir hamishtalech la'azazel is thrown down by the kayin, and all of our averis should be niskaper. We should have the kayin gadol doing the avodah, the Beis Hamikdash kidbai, the way it should be. We should be zeichet to live a Torah-dik life, to live a life al pi Torah, to live a life where we can be mekayim kol Torah kula, together with Taurus and Kachim. We should be able to bring karbanos, like the Chazal tell us that there was no simcha like the simcha in Yerushalayim. There was nobody upset in Yerushalayim, because in Yerushalayim you came to Yerushalayim, and before you went to sleep, you know you had kaparas avonos. Somebody did a chet, he came to the Beis Hamikdash, he brought a carbon, he knew he had kapara for his chatoim. Now what do we know? We don't know anything. Ki yisayim ve'einav. We have a mesach hamavdil between us and Bari Olam. We can't truly live the life of a Goy Kadosh, a Mamleches Kehanim, a Goy Kadosh. The Rebbeinu Shalom should accept our tshuva. The Rebbeinu Shalom should accept our tefillas. We should be zeichet to be mamlich the Rebbeinu Shalom on Rosh Hashanah, to really be mamlichim, to know what it means to have a melech malchei amlachim. The Rebbeinu Shalom should take us back as his Mamleches Kehanim and Goy Kadosh. Everybody should have a good gebencht yar, ksiva, chsima tova. Be well.